15 pop classics from the 1980s that didn't just top charts. They changed everything. You know these songs, you've heard them your whole life, but here's what most people never realized. These weren't just hits, they were turning points, moments where music shifted direction, sometimes quietly, sometimes overnight. And once you hear them like that, you start to notice something. The sound of today, it didn't come out of nowhere. It started here. Let's get into it. Number 15, Take On Me, Aha. You remember this one instantly. Not just the song, the video, that sketch animation, the way it pulled you into another world. And if you were watching MTV back then, you already know this wasn't normal. This was something different. Because before this, music videos were just visuals, performance clips, basic storytelling. But this blurred the line between music and film. And here's what's wild, the song itself didn't explode right away. It actually struggled early on. Different versions, different releases, nothing really sticking. And that's where it gets interesting. Because the breakthrough didn't come from changing the song. It came from changing how people experienced it. The video, that pencil sketch style, rotoscoping, took months to create, frame by frame, detail by detail. And suddenly, the song wasn't just something you heard, it became something you watched, something you felt. And if you've ever had a song that didn't hit you fully until you saw the visuals, you know that shift. Because now it's not just audio anymore, it's memory, emotion, story. And that changed everything. Because from that moment on, artists realized something. You couldn't just release a song. You had to create a moment, a visual identity, something people could connect to beyond the sound. And you see that today everywhere. Music videos that feel like short films, artists building worlds around their music. That didn't come out of nowhere, it came from moments like this. And here's the part that still hits, even now, decades later, that video still feels unique, still stands out. And that's how you know it didn't follow the trend, it created one. Number 14, Billie Jean, Michael Jackson. You hear that bass line, and you already know. No build-up needed, no explanation. It's immediate, recognizable within seconds, and that alone tells you something changed here. Because before this, pop wasn't always built like this. It was fuller, busier, more layered. But this was space, minimalism, precision, every sound placed exactly where it needed to be, and nothing extra. And that shift, that was intentional. Because instead of overwhelming the listener, this pulled you in, made you focus, made every detail matter more. And then came the performance. That moment on Motown 25, yesterday, today, forever, you already know the one, the moonwalk. And here's the thing, that wasn't just a dance move, that was a cultural reset. Because suddenly, performance wasn't optional anymore. It wasn't just about singing, it was about presence, movement, creating a moment people would never forget. And if you've ever seen a performance that instantly became history, you know exactly what that feels like. Because it doesn't happen often, but when it does, everything shifts around it. That's what happened here. Because after this, artists didn't just perform, they had to stand out, had to bring something extra, something visual, something unforgettable. And here's where it gets even deeper. This song also broke barriers, real ones. Because at the time, certain artists weren't getting the same visibility. But this couldn't be ignored. The music, the video, the impact. It forced its way into spaces that weren't always open. And once that door opened, it didn't close the same way again. And if you think about how global pop became after that, how different voices started reaching wider audiences, you can trace part of that shift right back here. Number 13, Like a Virgin, Madonna. This one wasn't just heard. It was talked about, debated, questioned, and that's exactly why it mattered. Because before this, pop stars were expected to fit a certain mold, safe, predictable, easy to understand. But this challenged that. Not just through the music, through the image, the attitude, the control. And if you remember that performance at the MTV Video Music Awards, you already know, rolling on the stage, wedding dress, breaking expectations in real time. And here's what's important, this wasn't accidental, this was intentional, because this is where something shifted in pop culture. Artists stopped just performing songs and started building identities, personal brands, narratives. And now, that's standard. But back then, this was different. Because it blurred the line between artist and persona, between music and controversy. And if you've ever noticed how some artists today feel larger than just their music, how their image becomes part of the experience, you're seeing the impact of moments like this. And here's the real shift, control, taking ownership of narrative, of image, of how the public sees you. Because once that door opened, it changed what being a pop star meant. Not just voice, not just performance, but presence. Number 12, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, Eurythmics. The first time you hear this, it feels different. Not in a loud way, not in an obvious way, but something about it doesn't sound like the rest of what pop music was doing at the time. Who am I to disagree? And that's the point, because this wasn't trying to blend in. This was a shift, a move towards something colder, more mechanical, more intentional. And if you were listening closely back then, you probably felt it without fully understanding why. Because pop before this often leaned warm, organic, live instruments, human feel. But this leaned into something else entirely, synths, drum machines, repetition. I travel the world. And here's what makes that important, it didn't feel like a replacement, it felt like a new language. Because instead of hiding the electronic sound, this embraced it, made it central, and that changed everything. Because suddenly, pop didn't have to sound like a band in a room anymore. It could sound like something built, designed, constructed piece by piece. Some of them want to abuse you. And if you've ever listened to modern pop, electronic pop, even parts of hip-hop production today, you can hear traces of this shift, that clean, synthetic sound, that precision, that control. And here's the deeper part, the tone of the song itself detached, almost emotionless on the surface, but underneath that, there's something else, a quiet intensity. And that contrast, that's what pulls you in. Because it doesn't tell you how to feel, it lets you sit in it, and that was different. Sweet dreams are made of these. Because it trusted the listener more, didn't over-explain, didn't over-perform, just existed in its own space. And that space, that became influential. Because once artists realized they could do this, that pop didn't have to follow one emotional tone, it opened the door for experimentation, for new sounds, for pushing boundaries. And that's why this song matters. Not just because it was successful, but because it proved something. You don't have to sound like everything else to connect. Sometimes, being different is exactly what changes everything. Number 11, Every Breath You Take, The Police. This is one of those songs people think they understand. You hear it, and it feels simple, clean, even comforting. But stay with it, because what this song did wasn't obvious. You fake, reclaim, you stick, I'll be watching you. It wasn't about being loud, it wasn't about pushing boundaries in a flashy way. It was about restraint, and that's something pop music didn't always lean into. Because a lot of the time, more feels like better, more instruments, more energy, more layers. But this pulled back, gave space, let things breathe. And that space, that's what made it powerful. Because it forced you to focus on the melody, on the lyrics, on the subtle tension underneath everything. Here's where it gets deeper. The simplicity is deceptive. Because behind that clean sound, there's complexity, emotion that isn't fully explained, a feeling that isn't spelled out, and that's intentional. Because instead of telling you exactly what to think, it lets you interpret it. And if you've ever listened to something that felt one way at first, and then completely different later, you know how powerful that can be. Because it grows with you, changes depending on where you are in life, and that's what gives this song longevity. But there's another shift here too, songwriting. This showed that you didn't need to overcomplicate things to make an impact, that simplicity, when done right, can reach further, can connect deeper. And if you look at how many songs today rely on minimal structure, clear melodies, focused production, you can trace part of that influence back here. Because sometimes, what you leave out matters just as much as what you include.
Every bond you break, every step you take.
Number 10, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Cyndi Lauper. At first, this feels obvious, fun, bright, energetic, like exactly what the title suggests, and that's why it worked. Because it was accessible, easy to connect with. But stay with it, because underneath that surface, there's a shift happening, a perspective that wasn't always centered in pop music before this. Because pop, for a long time, told stories from a limited point of view. But this expanded that, gave space to a different voice, a different experience, and made it central, not secondary, not background, and that matters. Because once that perspective becomes visible, it changes what's possible, what stories get told, what voices get heard. And if you've ever noticed how pop music today includes a wider range of perspectives, more individuality, more personality, you're seeing the result of shifts like this. But here's what really made it powerful. It didn't present that shift as heavy or complicated, it wrapped it in something joyful, something people could sing along to, dance to, feel good about, and that's smart. Because sometimes, the easiest way to introduce change is through something that feels familiar, and that's what this did. It didn't force anything, it invited people in, and once they were in, the message stayed. Number 9, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, Wham! This one hits you immediately, bright, fast, almost impossible to ignore, and that's exactly why it mattered. Because by the mid-80s, pop was starting to split in different directions. You had darker tones coming in, more experimental sounds, more emotional weight, and then this shows up, pure energy, pure color, no hesitation. And it reminds people of something important. Pop can be fun, and that might sound simple, but it's not. Because when music starts getting heavier, more serious, there's always a risk of losing that balance, that feeling of just enjoying something without overthinking it, and that's what this song brought back. Here's the deeper shift. It wasn't just fun, it was intentional fun, carefully crafted, every element designed to hit instantly, the rhythm, the melody, the call and response energy. And if you've ever heard a song that immediately pulls you in, that doesn't need time to grow on you, you know how rare that is. Because that kind of immediacy, that's hard to create. And once artists saw how effective that was, it became part of the formula, hooks that grab you instantly, choruses that stick after one listen, energy that doesn't let go. And you see that everywhere now, in pop, in hip-hop, in dance music, that idea of capturing attention immediately, that's not accidental, that's learned. And this was one of those moments that reinforced it. But there's something else too, image. Because Wham! Didn't just sound like this, they looked like it, colorful, energetic, unapologetically expressive. And that combination, sound, image, attitude, that's what made it stick. Because people weren't just hearing the song, they were experiencing it, and once that connection happens, it stays. Number 8, Livin' on a Prayer, Bon Jovi. This one feels different from the start, bigger, more dramatic, more cinematic, and that's the shift. Because this wasn't just a song, it was a story, and not a vague one, a specific one, characters, struggles, real-life pressure. And if you've ever connected to a song because it felt like it was telling your story, you already understand why this matters. Because this brought something into pop that became essential: relatability, not just emotion, not just sound, but narrative, a sense that what you're hearing reflects something real, something lived. Here's what made it even more powerful: it didn't stay small, it built, started grounded, then expanded into something massive, anthem level. And that structure, that rise from personal to universal, that's everywhere now, because it allows people to connect individually, then feel part of something bigger. And if you've ever been in a crowd singing a song together, all knowing the same words, feeling the same moment, you know how powerful that is. Because it turns music into a shared experience, and that's what this did. But there's another layer too: genre blending. This sits between rock and pop, not fully one, not fully the other, and that flexibility, that opened doors. Because it showed that you didn't have to stay in one lane, you could cross over, reach different audiences, expand your sound. And now, that's normal, but back then, that was part of the evolution, and this helped push it forward. Number 7, Take My Breath Away, Berlin. This one slows everything down, completely different energy from what came before, and that's intentional. Because this is where pop starts leaning into atmosphere, not just rhythm, not just hooks, but feeling, space, silence, and that's a shift. Because instead of filling every moment, this lets moments breathe, lets the sound linger, and that creates something different, something more immersive. And if you've ever listened to a song that made you stop, that made everything else fade out for a second, you know what that feels like. Because it pulls you in, not with energy, but with emotion, and that's what this does. But here's where it gets deeper. This song is tied to a moment, a film, a scene, and that connection, that elevated it. Because now the song isn't just audio, it's memory, visual, story. And that's another shift from the 80s, the relationship between music and film, how songs could extend beyond themselves, become part of something bigger. And now, that's everywhere, soundtracks shaping how we remember scenes, songs tied to emotions through visuals, but this was part of that evolution. And here's the key: it proved that pop didn't always need to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes, quiet hits harder. Number 6, Don't Stop Believin', Journey. This one didn't feel like history at first. It didn't explode overnight the way you'd expect. No instant this changes everything moment, and that's exactly why it matters. Because this is where something different happens: longevity, not just success, not just charts, but staying power. And if you've ever had a song that meant one thing to you at one point in your life, and then something completely different later, you already understand what this represents. Because this song grew, over time, through moments, through memories, through people connecting to it in different ways, and that's a shift. Because before this, the focus was often immediate impact: what hits now, what charts now. But this showed something else: music can build its legacy slowly, quietly, and sometimes, that impact becomes bigger than anything immediate. And here's what makes it even more interesting: the structure. It doesn't rush, it takes its time, builds gradually, holds back, and then finally releases everything. And if you've ever listened to something that felt like a journey instead of just a song, you know how rare that is. Because it asks for patience, it asks you to stay with it, and when you do, the payoff hits harder. And that idea, that emotional build, that delayed gratification, you see that now in so many songs. Because it creates a deeper connection, a more lasting one. There's another layer here too: shared experience. This is one of those songs that brings people together, different generations, different backgrounds, same reaction, and that's powerful. Because it turns music into something bigger than individual listening. It becomes collective, and that's when you know something has moved beyond being just a hit, into becoming part of culture itself. Number 5, Beat It, Michael Jackson. This is where boundaries start breaking, clearly, visibly, because this wasn't just a pop song, it wasn't just a rock song, it wasn't trying to choose, it combined both. And that matters more than it sounds. Because at the time, genres were more separated, more defined, more controlled. But this crossed that line, and once that line gets crossed successfully, it doesn't go back the same way. And if you've ever noticed how music today blends styles constantly, pop with hip-hop with rock, electronic with everything, that freedom, that comes from moments like this. But here's what really makes it hit: collaboration, bringing in elements from outside your usual space, letting different sounds exist together, and trusting that it can work. And that's not always easy, because it takes risk, it takes stepping outside what people expect. But when it works, it expands everything, and that's exactly what happened here.
Their eyes and their words are really clear, so beat it, just beat it.
But there's another layer: the message, the visual, the storytelling, everything aligned, nothing felt separate. And that's when music becomes more than just sound, it becomes experience. And once artists saw that, they started aiming for more than just hits, they aimed for impact. Number 4, With or Without You, U2. This one feels different immediately, not because it's loud, but because it's patient, controlled, almost restrained, and that restraint, that's the shift.
Reach the shore, you gave it all, but
Because instead of trying to grab your attention instantly, this pulls you in slowly, gives you space to sit with it, and that creates something deeper, because it feels real, unforced. And if you've ever connected to something that didn't try too hard, that just existed in its own space, you know how powerful that can be. But here's where it changes things: structure. Isn't built like a typical pop song. It builds gradually, layer by layer, emotion rising without overwhelming, and then it peaks, and that peak feels earned, not forced. And that's important, because it showed that pop didn't have to follow one formula. It could evolve, shift, take risks with pacing, and still connect. And now, you see that everywhere: songs that build slowly, songs that focus on atmosphere instead of instant hooks, that trust the listener to stay. That trust, that came from moments like this. Because once you prove that people will stay with you, you gain freedom, creative freedom, and that changes everything.
through the storm.
Number 3, I Wanna Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me, Whitney Houston. This feels like pure joy at first, bright, upbeat, easy to move to. But stay with it, because what this song did wasn't just about energy, it was about elevation. Because this is where pop vocals reached another level. Not just good, not just catchy, but powerful, controlled, effortless in a way that doesn't feel normal. And if you've ever heard a voice that made you stop what you were doing, just to listen, you know what that feels like. Because it pulls your attention completely, and that's what this did. But here's the deeper shift: it made that level of vocal performance accessible. Because before this, that kind of vocal ability often lived in specific spaces. But this brought it directly into pop, into mainstream, into everyday listening, and that changed expectations. Because now, it wasn't enough to just have a good voice. There was a new standard, a higher bar, and once that bar is raised, everyone has to respond to it. But there's another layer here: emotion inside energy. Cause on the surface, this feels like a celebration, but underneath, there's longing, a desire for connection, and that contrast, that's what gives it depth. Because it lets different people connect to it in different ways. And if you've ever had a song that felt happy at one moment, and something deeper at another, you already understand that duality. That's what makes music last, and that's why this matters, because it didn't just raise the bar technically, it expanded what pop could feel like. Number 2, Thriller, Michael Jackson. This wasn't just a song, you already know that. This was an event, a moment people remember, not just hearing, but seeing, experiencing, and that's the shift. Because before this, music lived mostly in audio, but this expanded it, turned it into something cinematic, something visual, something you waited for, talked about, shared. And if you've ever experienced something in music that felt bigger than the song itself, you know how rare that is. Because it becomes cultural, it becomes part of memory, and that's exactly what happened here. But here's what really changed everything: scale, the level of production, the detail, the intention behind every element. Nothing felt accidental, everything felt designed. And that raised expectations across the industry, because once people see what's possible, they start expecting more from everyone, and that's when the standard shifts. But there's another layer: timing. Because this didn't just happen in isolation, it happened at a moment where media was expanding, where visual platforms were growing, and this took full advantage of that. And if you've ever seen how certain moments define an era, you know it's not just about quality, it's about timing, and this hit at the perfect moment, and changed everything around it. Number 1, When Doves Cry, Prince. This one shouldn't have worked. By every standard at the time, it breaks the rules: no bassline, unconventional structure, unpredictable shifts, and yet it connects, deeply, and that's the point. Because this is where everything comes together: creativity, control, risk. Because instead of following what worked, this created something new, something that didn't need to fit. And if you've ever seen someone do something their own way, without compromise, and still succeed, you know how powerful that is. Because it changes what feels possible. But here's the deeper impact: freedom. Because once this works, it sends a message: you don't have to follow the formula, you don't have to sound like everyone else, you can build your own lane. And that idea, that's what shapes the future. Because every artist after this knows it's possible, knows there's space for something different. And that's why this sits at number 1, not just because it was successful, but because it expanded the boundaries of what pop could be.